All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And check out my website, danceofthecosmos.com. My name is Dan Hendricks. So this is an overview of a little exploration, a little course of exploration of understanding the planets through their nakshatras that they are related to and associated with. This is a little bit different because typically, like when I'm learning about nakshatras, like either I'm reading a book or I'm reading a video, I hear about the nakshatra and I'll read about the definition of the nakshatra and it'll be being colored by the ruler, by the planet that is associated with or rules that nakshatra. What I thought would be interesting, because I've never seen anything like this, where what I'm going to actually do is take the 3 nakshatras that each of the 9 planets are related to, talk about the qualities of those nakshatras, and then talk about how that's related to that planet by what we know about that planet. It's very, very fascinating discussion. This series is going to take me a little while to get out. It's actually going to keep me from making videos for a while because there's just a lot of knowledge when it comes to these nakshatras. And so with that being said, there's a lot of qualities to each nakshatra, but what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on the nakshatra, the meaning of the nakshatra, the deity of the nakshatra, the Shakti power of the nakshatra, the result of that Shakti power, and then what's called the basis above, the basis below. And then I'll probably talk about, depending on the nakshatra, I'll talk about a couple of different other qualities that might come along, like maybe the image of the nakshatra might be something that's, or the symbol related to the nakshatra might be something that's useful. But for the most part, it's going to be those like 7 qualities. So we're going to look at that because those qualities all represent like the core of what that nakshatra means. Now, what's important to understand about the difference between nakshatras and Rashis is that nakshatras are a very subtle energy force. Like for example, in Brihat Parashara Horus Shastra, what Parashara tells us is he tells us the nakshatras exist in a zodiac, and that same zodiac also is where the signs are. And then he specifically says, but what we're going to talk about is planets and signs, not planets and nakshatras. And because the thing is like to understand how well a planet's going to perform, to be able to judge its strength and what it's going to, and how it's going to evolve in our life is through signs. Because the signs tell us what the houses are. The nakshatras don't tell us what house, they're not associated with a house. Because nakshatras some nakshatras are contained completely within a Rashi, and some nakshatras bridge between 2 Rashis. Because there's 27 nakshatras, 12 Rashis. It's not like there's 24 nakshatras and 12 Rashis. So in other words, like the nakshatras will oftentimes, I don't know what, a third, half, 2/3 of the nakshatras, I don't know what the number is, bridge between 2 Rashis. So with that being said, it's the Rashis that tell us where a planet is exalted. It's the Rashis that tell us where a house is located. And it's the Rashis that tell us how a planet performs, that gives us planetary dignity, that we understand avashtas, we understand natural relationships. For example, Sun can be in the nakshatra of Venus, Venus and Sun are natural enemies, but that's not going to mean that Venus is going to do terrible, or I'm sorry, Sun is going to perform terrible in a Venus nakshatra. Now, we know that Sun is debilitated in one of Venus's Rashis, in the Rashi of Libra, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Sun is debilitated in all those nakshatras, which none of those are necessarily ruled by Venus. So it's interesting to understand the difference between that. So what does the nakshatra do? Nakshatras work on a very subtle level. Nakshatra is like the energy that charges a planet by how it's kind of going to act. So we know that Saturn is going to bring difficulties. Well, you put Saturn in like the nakshatra of Mula. Well, Mula is all about cutting away to the core, getting to the core of something, and we'll get into Mula Nakshatra. That'll actually be in the first video in this series. And so anyway, so maybe Saturn goes through difficulties by stripping down, wanting to tear away from everything that doesn't need to be used, which is actually a very Saturn-like energy. So I mean, and that's the difference. Now, if Saturn were in like a Pusha Nakshatra, which is Saturn's own nakshatra actually, and Pusha Nakshatra is about beautiful things, right? It's about and it's really about creating spiritual energy. And so maybe Saturn deals with the difficulties by maybe spiritualizing a little bit more, or seeing the beauty in those difficulties. Now, those are two extreme examples. Maybe that's not how it is. But basically what it is the planet has an agenda. How that planet performs is what the Rashis are about, how well it performs. Rashis can also show the environment that it is performing in, right? Now, the Nakshatras are about the energy that, and the kind of the way that planet is going to manifest its energy, like which of the 27 different creative energies are behind each single planet. And so that's what the Nakshatras are. And so with that being said, too, the planets are the conscious forces. The difference between the energy of one planet and another planet is the stark contrast, right? Night and day. Now, the difference between this nakshatra and this nakshatra is subtle. It's a subtle difference. It's a creative difference. It's the way the planet goes about things. And so it's a very fascinating discussion. And the reason why I'm saying that it's subtle is because when we get into the qualities of some of these nakshatras and we tie it to these planets, it's going to seem like that's not anything like what I know that planet to be. But understand that that'll be telling us that the planet is going to operate this way in a subtle level. We already know about, through the descriptions of the planets, how they're going to operate on a conscious, obvious level, right? Of how it's going to represent its energy, what its main agenda is. Now, this is going to show us some of the subtle qualities of the planets. It's very, very interesting to think about these planets this way, especially when we get to Venus. Venus and Mars I find to be the most interesting when we get into this exploration. And so I recommend checking out this series. I think it's very, very, very interesting, very fascinating. I've never seen anybody attempt this. And through this process, I myself am going to learn more about the nakshatras. I'm going to learn more about the planets. I'm going to learn more about astrology. It's very fascinating. And so I really recommend taking the time to do this, to own it yourself. Reply in the comments section of what you think. If there's something you want to add to this discussion, if you think that I'm completely wrong, that's perfectly okay. I welcome that. Write it in there. You know, let's get it. Let's engage in a discussion of further understanding these subtle energies of the nakshatras and the subtle energies of the planets too. Really cool. I'm very excited to do this series. So thank you for watching. Check out some of those videos. Let me know what you think. And namaste.